Back in 1997, a little game called Final Fantasy VII was released to universal critical acclaim. It was such a fantastic combination of gameplay, narrative, and technology at the time that it felt like an experience that was way ahead of anything possible on the PlayStation. In 2005, a tech demo for the PS3 showcasing the game's intro cinematic with updated visuals caused quite a stir amongst fans, resulting in requests for a remake. It wouldn't be until 2015 that Square Enix would officially announce that the remake was indeed in development. After a 5-year wait, the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake was finally made available. Was it worth the wait? Let's take a look. Since the Final Fantasy VII Remake will be delivered in multiple episodes, this first part will focus up until the end of Midgar, which is about 5 hours into the original game. Just like the original, the story follows ex-soldier Cloud Strife as he assists the eco-terrorist organization Avalanche as they attempt to combat the nefarious Shinra Corporation. The story is a more fleshed out affair, turning the initial 5-ish hours of the original game into a meaty 40+ hours in the remake. Fans will have an idea of what's in store, but there are also some really nice surprises. Events that were originally presented as a passing conversation have been turned into complete missions that involve Cloud, and at the same time give some more screen time to characters who initially played smaller roles. It's a great adventure that mostly stays true to the source material. There are a few changes here and there. I never really took any issue with adjustments to the narrative though. There are some sections in the game that do feel a little dragged out here and there, but this never made the game feel like a chore. The same can be said for the side quests. These are quite varied and pretty enjoyable. Even the characters have been brought to life in a way that makes you somewhat invested in almost everyone you come across. I love getting to know these updated characters and how they fit into the story. There's so much more character development that actually gives you some insight into your companions and why they fight against Shinra. Cloud himself is also a little less of a silent grump and begins to open up gradually as he interacts more with all of the supporting characters. In terms of gameplay, the remake has stepped things up quite a bit. The old turn-based system has been done away with and plays more in real time, similar to Final Fantasy XV. Instead of waiting for a gauge to fill up before you can attack, this is mainly used to determine when you're able to make use of a technique, use an item, or cast a spell. The combat is incredibly flashy and the characters pull off some insane attacks. Initially, it did feel as if I could just wail on my enemies with attacks in order to pick up the win. However, it's actually quite important to master the evading and blocking, as you can take a fair amount of damage if you aren't careful. Every battle requires a bit of strategy as you plan out when to use specific techniques. In all honesty, it can be somewhat overwhelming at first when coming to grips with all the mechanics, but this can be alleviated by entering the commands menu during battle in order to plan your next move. It's also beneficial to take control of each character in your party to learn their attacks and timing, but also for healing and changing the target of your enemy's aggression. There's a big focus on putting your enemy into a staggered state. In this state, enemies are stunned for a short amount of time and are more susceptible to taking damage. This is the best time to unleash some of your biggest damage dealing techniques such as limit breaks in order to take a big chunk out of your opponent's health bar. Those who are looking for a more turn-based affair are likely to be a little disappointed as there's no mode that offers this experience. The closest option is classic mode, where the characters attack, evade and block automatically, leaving you only to focus on issuing commands to dictate the flow of battle. It may not be the classic turn-based combat, but it's a close second. There are a host of boss battles during the course of the game, and they feel like a big step up both in terms of grandeur but also challenge. They really feel like enemies that are miles above any cannon fodder that you may face when just exploring an area. Some even have advanced tactics that have to be employed in order to beat them, increasing the challenge a little bit more. While I had some trouble with some of the bosses, they were so exciting to take on, and defeating them while my party was on their last made it feel like such a hard-earned victory. Characters level up by gaining XP during battles. Leveling up increases all your stats from your HP to your attack. However, your stats can also be influenced by the weapon and armor you have equipped. Weapons can also increase in power by using skill points, which are earned every time you level up. Skill points can be spent on nodes in the weapon itself, allowing you to increase damage dealt with that weapon in addition to unlocking certain perks. Weapon levels also increase as you level up, unlocking more nodes to spend your points on. Also, it's great that each weapon earns skill points individually, so you can spend as many of them as you want on a particular weapon without disadvantaging another. Another way to increase your stats or gain new perks is by equipping materia. The materia system returns and functions pretty much the same as it did before. Equipping materia will entitle you to its benefits, plus the materia grows in strength just as the characters do, as long as it's equipped on a character. There are also some summoning materia available in the game, and these function similarly to how summons worked in Final Fantasy XV. The option to use it becomes available when faced with a powerful foe. The various summons are brilliant and can honestly turn the tide of battle if the odds are stacked against you. Visually, the Final Fantasy VII Remake looks incredible. The character models look really great, and the animations even more so. I honestly fell in love with the subtle facial expressions that helped tell the story or made it slightly more humorous. The environments are also massive and feel so much more alive than they ever did. There are some inconsistencies though, and these can be a little immersion breaking. It's all well and good to see gorgeous visuals in a scene, but when there are some subpar visuals in between, it mars the experience somewhat. The audio is brilliant though. Each character is fully voiced and incredibly well, bringing life to every character you encounter. The music is also a serious high point thanks to the original score being recomposed. It all sounds fantastic and honestly never gets old. The first time I heard the battle theme kick in was such an overwhelming experience. I just have some fond memories of hearing it in the original game, and this recomposed score is just so special. Final Fantasy VII Remake is great. While we only got until the end of Midgar, it truly felt like such a memorable retelling. Some fans might not agree with some of the new narrative choices, but despite this, it's still a thoroughly enjoyable adventure. There are some inconsistencies with the visuals, but for the most part, it's just breathtaking. The Final Fantasy VII Remake might not be an exact updated replica of the original, but the great gameplay and the soundtrack make it an incredible experience that is sure to please fans and newcomers alike. If you enjoyed this review, please hit that like button, and if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you got your hands on Final Fantasy VII Remake, please let me know what you thought of the game in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.